Welcome to the Consulting Success Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Zapersky. In this podcast, we'll dive deep into the world of elite consultants, where you'll learn the strategies, tactics, and mindset to grow a highly profitable and successful consulting business.
Hi there, and welcome back to another episode of the Consulting Success Podcast. Joining Michael on the show today is Tony Velasquez, who's the CEO of Angelus Advisors, which provides guidance on enterprise resource planning software for large-scale Fortune 500 companies. Now, this software gives users a single platform through which companies can do a variety of business functions, but they can be quite complex. And this is where Tony and his team come in, helping their clients identify the best systems for their needs and then guide them through the implementation. Now, as you're about to hear, Tony has actually joined the Clarity Coaching program. And when he started, he thought that he might 2x his revenue, but just after a few short months, he actually surpassed his original goal, achieving 2.5 times revenue growth. And a year later is approaching 4 times revenue growth. And if you want to see the results that Tony is seeing and join the Clarity Coaching program, head over to consultingsuccess.com/grow to apply today. Also, a quick reminder about the giveaway that we are running for this month. Now, we're really excited for this. So let me tell you exactly how you can enter and what you will get and what you might win. So first, if you head over to Apple Podcasts and leave a rating and review of the podcast, first of all, what you're going to receive is a free ebook on what consultants really charge in 2023, where you're going to learn what the highest earning consultants do differently with their fees. You can learn best practices, how to raise your fees by 2 to 3x. You're going to get real life case studies for how consultants have increased their fees by up to 100%, plus an action plan for raising your fees with confidence on your very next consulting project. And to claim that free ebook, all you have to do is simply send us an email with your Apple ID over at contest@consultingsuccess.com. Again, send an email over at contest@consultingsuccess.com to get your free ebook. Okay, so that's for anyone who leaves a rating and review. Now, as a bonus, for anyone that leaves a rating and review on Apple Podcasts, you're also going to go into a pool with a chance to win lifetime access to our Momentum Consulting course, which is 1 strategic hour each day to help you add 6 figures to your annual consulting income. Now, this course is regularly $2,000. However, if you leave a rating and review, you get the chance to win it completely free. And for all of the benefits of this course and what you get, I will add it in the show notes section of this podcast to make it easy for you. But like I said, again, head over to Apple Podcasts, leave a rating and review. There you'll get a free ebook, plus get entered into a draw to win a $2,000 course, the Momentum Consulting course. Okay, now let's talk about what you will learn listening to today's episode with Tony. First is how to increase the value of your offering, how to make your clients feel special and heard, how to ignite excitement to win new clients, how to craft an impactful message to attract your ideal customer, and how to make your family a priority, all while building your business, plus so much more. Here to share with you his insight and story is Tony Velasquez. Enjoy.
Tony, you started working at Visa back in 1997, then Blackboard, MasterCard, Aon. And I believe in 2017, you decided to start your own consulting business. Take us back to that time. What was going on? Why did you decide to strike out on your own, leave, working in these very well-established, large kind of corporate organizations and become a consultant?
Sure. So prior to me starting Angelus Advisors, I, like you said, I worked for Fortune 500 companies, well-known companies around consulting, around systems, around working with clients so they can identify what systems were appropriate for them or updating and supporting those systems. Mm-hmm. So over time, I've always had the bug, and my father has worked for a long time on his own. And I've always had the bug of trying to do something by myself and not necessarily under the corporate umbrella. So my son, who's soon to be 7, at the time was 6 months. And when he was born, I was working on various projects and I couldn't take any time off to spend with him. So he was born in November, and I didn't have time until maybe March, April of the following year to take off to spend time with him. I think that was one of the key points of motivation of saying, why don't I do something different that I can control some of my time? That was one. Two, I was working on various big implementations of Workday, Fortune 500 companies, global implementations. Great experience. I would do it all over again. The only thing I think it would change is I would probably go on my own much sooner. I was waiting for that right moment. And really, it came out of family. So I wanted to spend more time. This is pre-COVID. I was traveling, working 40, 50, 60 hours a week, depending on what was going on. And I wanted to spend time with my kids, basically. And speaking to my wife, who really was the first one to approach me to say, is there a better way? I said, well, if something opens up, if I get something local, if another project that I can handle and not travel as much and be home, I'll take it. And it's like I said it, and the next day it happened, because then I got contacted, and my first client was actually, I had some contacts there that were personal friends that we worked in the past together, and it just started from there.
All right. So yeah, and it's always interesting to hear how when you kind of create a vision or sights to something new, how opportunities start to arise. So I want to come back to that in just a moment, but you mentioned that your dad was also an entrepreneur or kind of did his own thing for a while. What line of work was that? What was his background?
So my family's from Colombia, South America, and he came with my mom to start a new life. So he had an accounting background, and he took a few courses, worked for a couple of companies as an accountant, working their books, basically. And then from one day to the next, someone asked him, can you help me with my taxes? And he said, sure. And he leap of faith, then 1 became 5, became 10. He grew that business so big that he had to leave the corporate world, and he was working on his own ever since. So lucky enough, he did really well. And we didn't have a lot of means, but at the time when I was ready to go to college, things were really going so well that he basically said, look, I'll support you wherever you go. And we have the means to at least start something. Where most of, growing up where I grew up, most of the friends that I had didn't go to college. And if they went to college, they had very low resources to go to college. And it wasn't instilled in them from the very beginning because it wasn't a possibility. So I owe that to my family. I owe that to my mom and dad. My dad because of that, and my mom, who basically raised us and instilled in us how important education was. So yeah, he's always been on his own. And I was in college, but he actually would reach out to me to help him with his business. And I actually started to do taxes. And then that's when he knew, be really good at running your own business. You get it. And I was maybe 21 at the time. But I was just always coached to go to school, get a degree, and work for someone. So it took me some time to break out of that. But yes, I owe everything to my family, to my parents, of instilling that and helping me, make that push when I had my own.
It sounds like that seed of entrepreneurship and even professional services was planted for you quite early from your family, which is fantastic. So you talked about the first client when you decided to leave working with Fortune 500 companies as an employee came from a relationship that you had. And that's obviously very common in the consulting world. Some of the studies we've done have shown that 50% of consultants say that their first client was actually a previous employer. So in your case, a little bit of a difference there. But can you just walk us through what did that look like for you in terms of that first client? How quickly were you able to replace your Fortune 500 income through the work that you were doing? Or just what was that initial kind of 6 months to year when you actually went off and started your consulting business? What was that like?
Yes, good question. So I would start with this. So prior to me deciding to leave, I was already managing and working with Fortune 100 companies globally. I was part of that implementation team. And at that time, focused more on the system side of the implementation and how those systems would talk to other systems. So because of that background, it was pretty easy for me to go on my own and talk about system A, system B, system C. And my background is at the core is project management. So I was a certified project manager. I knew how to manage multi-layer, multi-phased implementations. So I was used to that. So me deciding to go on my own, Initially, to be totally honest with you, I didn't know what I was doing. I said, sure, I'm going to walk away and I have my first client, but I wasn't really sure how it would go. Luckily, this first client, the HRIS director, was a personal friend of mine because we worked with in the past. And to this day, I'm very close to. And the teams that were involved, the companies that were involved, I knew of very well. So that acclimation didn't really take that long, and I just jumped right in. This project was available because they did have a project manager on it, but unfortunately, that project manager just literally disappeared from one day to the next. So not only was a project that needed a PM, but it was a project that was already ongoing and it needed direction. It was at a standstill. So then making the change, I understood the value of this, right? So it wasn't like before I made a salary and that was the only value I brought to the table. This was more of what I bring to the table times a certain factor, because you have a multi-million-dollar project just sitting there and no one's managing. So little by little, I learned with each and every project.
Tony, just to jump in, did you see that component of value early on? So what I'm really getting at is oftentimes consultants, especially at the early stage, think about their work more just in terms of like deliverables and what they're going to do. They're not focused as much on the outcome, the value, the result, right? The real benefit for the client. To me, it sounds like the way that you're talking, it's like you saw the value of doing this work and focused on that, not so much just about like, I can help you with project management or to get the solution in place. Can you take us back to that time? Like, was that something that you saw very early on and you were pushing, or are you just kind of speaking more from the benefit of hindsight and knowing what you know now?
Maybe a little bit of both, but probably the latter. So because I've already been in business for 6 years, because I've had constant work and because I've had constant implementations, that's how I can talk about the value. I think in the beginning, maybe like, I don't know if I equate it to going to the gym, maybe in the beginning, you just get used to doing certain exercises and then you realize the results and you keep on doing them because you feel a certain way. And then after the fact, you're like, oh, I get it. If I did this, this, and this, I get certain results. In the beginning, maybe it was like that for me. I didn't get the aha moment of, oh, I'm adding all this value, but I knew I was adding something extra and I kept on focusing on that. And one of the key things there, as far as with client work and being consultant, is at a very early age. So, and maybe this is a prior question you had, I said to myself, if this doesn't work out, I can always go back to where I was. I was very confident in that. And if I wasn't going to go back to the same company, I would go to a similar company. So that didn't worry me so much. I did have a new family. I had kids and now a wife and people depending on me and my family, but that wasn't really a concern. I think moving forward on the value is that I focused on how do I separate myself from everybody else? Like there's a lot of consultants out there. Like, why do you want to work with me? So the value was very important. To understand the overall value and how I can bring something to the table was extremely important. And I think with each and every project, I've learned a lot more along the way. And then when I met you and Consulting Success, that just solidified that and really gave it more reinforcement of the value of that, of why I am what I am today because I focus on that. I'll be honest, most consultants that I come across with, they might focus on their billable rate or I'm just here to do a task and I leave. They don't understand the big picture of the value. And that's how I think you can separate from most people.
Can you maybe give us some examples, whether it's more recent or going back in time a little bit over there, the last 6 years of something that you've done and that you've focused on, again, with a more tangible example for people of how you've kind of highlighted that value or tried to differentiate or separate yourself from just the other consultants or kind of alternatives in the marketplace? What have you seen really work for you?
So maybe the overall opportunity cost, the overall risk cost. So you might, buy, and I'm going to use this analogy. So sometimes on conference calls, I say about a house, about building a house, or I say about you just bought a big investment, like let's say a very expensive luxury car. So obviously that already has a number to it. But that car or that house, you do not maintain or you do not flourish and you don't add certain things to it, then that value is going to degrade very quickly, or you're not going to get to the top of where you want to be as far as overall value. So I focus on that from day one. It's not about how much this project is costing or how much out of that project they are providing to me as a service or how much I'm providing to them. But overall, what is that overall impact, that overall value? So So what I do is I help companies implement HR, payroll, financial solutions. That's really a digital transformation. They impact their employees today, day one, but I have impacts 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So that is huge. And that's the focus I try to bring to the table. There's two areas that people have highlighted to me, and hence my name came out of one of them. So the first thing is when I come to the table, most clients after the fact, post-mortem, just, feedbacks, lessons learned, they say, Tony, you brought to the table that it's obvious that you care about the project. So it's very unique because most of the times you won't think about that, but that focus of I care because I'm treating this just like if it was my personal project.
How do you think that you do that? Because for some, like hearing you say that, right? Like it's like, well, yeah, anybody can say things like high quality, best in class service. Like these are kind of, buzzwords that are very general. And so to hear that you care, obviously you do care. I mean, I've known you now for a couple of years and we'll talk about your energy in a moment, but the fact that you care to me very clearly shows up like when we're, jumping on a call, even with other clients in Clarity Coaching Program, whatever it might be, like you generally come across as caring, but how do you think that you do like what's going on in your mind? What are you focusing on? How do you kind of turn that dial? Is there anything tangible that you could offer so that people could really see and try maybe compare to what they're doing so they could get some of the advantages or benefits from showing up the way that you do?
So I'm trying to think of good examples here, but I'll go back to college. So in college, my first semester was horrible. I actually skipped a grade before going to college. And I went to college at 17. And my first semester was horrible. I almost flunked out. Who knows? The change, the new scenery, the new city, etc. But I had a program that I picked up, a study program, and it said, what's the difference between average grades and that A and A plus? And I know there was a model that they showed you like a hamburger. And they showed you a hamburger that was a C hamburger and a hamburger that was an A hamburger. And the C hamburger, the lettuce was off, the tomato was falling off, half of the bun was off, things like that. And I've always instilled in that when I deliver and the caring part. Like I focus on the details because I know it's important. Like I want the client at the end of this experience to say, I couldn't have done that without Tony and his team. Like I want them to walk away feeling they ate that A hamburger and they didn't get the C part because they always get the C part. In my realm, you have so many people that are just going through the motions. So the caring part is taking it up another level, not just checking off a box, like always think next steps. And at the end of the day, what I do is, yes, I help people implement systems, but I work with people. So at the end of the day, I try to focus on their needs. For example, I'm focusing on a new system. Of course, it's going to change their day-to-day. How does it change their day-to-day? Are they worried about losing their job? Are they very excited about learning something new? Like focus on what's important and then help them along the journey. And then that will make a huge difference. And that is the caring part. And when I say caring, it's not because I think I care. That's what the clients are telling me after a project, right? So that's what I try to focus on and then instill in my team to make sure that they keep that going and they focus on that as well.
So I'm going to just kind of like repeat back what I'm hearing you say in a way to try and kind of summarize, and you tell me if this is accurate or if I'm way off the mark. What I'm kind of hearing and partly just inferring of what you're saying is that the secret sauce or part of it, that at least the caring part, is you slow down where others might try and rush through a process, rush through a meeting, rush through a presentation, rush to securing a sale. I'm hearing that you go slower. You focus more on asking questions, really on listening. You try and kind of customize the way that even if you have your own framework and the way that you guys do things, you really try and adapt that or adjust that for the specific client so that they feel like they are heard. And you're doing that not just in the first meeting, but throughout the whole engagement. Does that sound accurate or am I missing something there?
I really like the latter part of that. Let's just say there's a project to paint a room, right? And most people focus on the end, right?
Right.
Get the paint, but really I try to focus from day one all the way through. Like buying the paint, who's painting? Did you bring any water for the painter? Did you feed him lunch? Did you pat him on the back? Like there's so many steps to get to the finished painted wall. Most clients or consultants really focus on the last part. How much are you going to charge me for the painted wall? Let's focus on the entire journey and what you need along the way. Maybe I need to encourage your painter because of this project. Now they can paint the whole house instead of just the wall.
Is that intentional? Like, do you actually look at every kind of component of an engagement from initial conversation to proposal to kickoff meeting, onboarding? Like, is that something that you've broken down and you and your team have kind of figured out how do we adjust and how do we fine tune and how do we deliver it at the level that we want for each of these things? Or is it more natural and kind of organic that you just do it because it's what you've been doing for so long?
It started out very natural. That's how I've been raised, or that's how I've been focused. Okay. With each project, though, we do take the time to dissect it, review it, and then more and more we get the feedback from the client. So with each feedback of the caring component, we do take time to break that apart and build it into our business processes and our delivery. And that way we can ensure that why are we successful? Because we keep on focusing on what's successful, right? We don't try to deviate from that. And frankly, sometimes if there's not a good environment for whatever team members or projects, the answer is no, because we want to make sure we deliver that part. So I think it would be natural first, but then we learned along the way. With every new engagement, we learn that. And then we also, and this might be the second part, which is the energy part. And we also want to make sure that we've kept on doing this for so many years. We don't want to come to the table very stale and boring. And yeah, I already know what you want, Michael. You want this painted wall, so no big deal. We don't want to do that. We want to bring the energy. Like if it's the first time we do this, like the very first time. Like now that I have kids, when they open up that new toy, like we want to make sure this experience is incredible because it could be defined differently. Some people define change totally different than excitement, right? And sometimes when you are implementing a new system globally or company-wide, they look at that as a negative initially. And we want to make sure they look at that as an excitement, an opportunity. And if we come to the table energized, then it just spills over to the team. And again, because of the feedback, we've had direct clients tell me, we did this because of you. We did this because of your excitement and your energy. There was days I didn't want to be on that call and I heard your voice and I'm like, I got to do this. Or there's days that I'm like, we're not going to be able to do this. And then you were so convinced we were. So I just followed along. And that's the feedback that we get. And that's the feedback we try to instill on all our projects, regardless if it's our first one or our latest one, right? We want to make sure that sentiment is there and we can focus on it. And luckily enough, we've been able to survive and thrive. And frankly, I think that's one of our, secret sauce. And one thing I've learned through your program is at first I was maybe hesitant to share that. Now I share it even more because no one does it our way, right? It's like those restaurant chains that have their secret formula. Like no one does it the way they do it, right? Everybody knows they have a secret formula, but it's hard to duplicate because they do it a certain way. Same thing with us, right? So I want more consultants to learn from what I just said. And I want more consultants to do that. I want the greater community to just be better at a higher standard because then we're all at a higher level as opposed to sometimes when I walk into a room, they just assume I am a different level. I call them like D or C players as opposed to the A player, right? And then I can justify and go through that sometime. So I think those two main components, I would say caring and energy, and obviously that's different things for different people, but that's two areas that I think you can easily separate yourself from the norm.
So I've been able to experience firsthand your energy, right? On many calls in the consulting success community, when you come on, Tony, you're also very consistent with your energy. So I'm wondering for those that are joining us right now, going, well, yeah, like I can see the value of bringing energy. I can see how it's almost always going to be more enjoyable to be around somebody who has good, positive energy as opposed to somebody who just is kind of like draining the room or just sounds like they're half asleep or they're not, excited about what they're doing. You bring that level of excitement. So how do you do that? When I ask that question, I'm really kind of trying to get at, I think everyone has had an experience where they feel excited about something. They feel like they're kind of bubbly, full of energy. But then there's a lot of times where they just don't really have that feeling come up anymore, right? But you are consistent with it on the calls that I've seen you on, right? Which is many at this point. You're very consistent with your level of energy. That's why, you've been kind of dubbed as, right, Tony, Mr. Energy. But I'm sure you also run into challenging, hard times where it's very easy for you from a mindset perspective to focus on something negative, to not bring that energy. How do you navigate that? How do you show up consistently with that level of energy?
So I think that's a tough question to say. For me personally, it is part of who I am, right? So it's my DNA, let's say.
Where does it come from? Because even though it's your DNA, and I mean, like we were talking earlier, right? You grew up in an area of New York where it wasn't the most positive. There was lots of challenges, right? You mentioned a lot of people around you who by 18, 19 years old, they were in jail and so forth. So that's not a place where somebody typically goes like, yeah, I'm happy all the time and positive. So I'm just going to challenge you a little bit on that, because I think there's probably something in there, a defining moment or a set of experiences of kind of what made you who you are today.
So maybe we can just talk it out, and I think you can help me figure it out. I think where I grew up, most people don't believe in this. Not even my wife believes this. When I was a kid, I was very quiet. I was not Tony that you see today. I got picked on. I got bullied in elementary, mostly junior high school. Then I noticed, I'm like, I got to develop communication here. I got to be the guy who tells the jokes, or the guy who's social, the guy who's friends with everybody, because if I'm friends with everybody, then I don't get picked on. That's how I developed that. And I started building that personality, I would say. So now, fast forward to today, the energy, I think, and this is just me, I think everybody has an energy, right? Am I down some days? Sure. And my daughter last night woke up multiple times. I think she woke up at 3:00 in the morning. I'm running on, 4 or 5 hours sleep.
And some good coffee, right?
And some good coffee. But I talked to a team member this morning, and I'm like, yeah, do this, do that. And you can call me at this time and I'll be up at 6 in the morning. And she's like, yeah, you always bring the energy. So I think it's something like, at least in the business realm, it's important to always reset and take a second and bring your energy. And if there's days that you're low on energy, call it out and say, hey, client, today's not the best day for this. Give me until tomorrow or something. That's fine. But I think if you're going to do something, do it with energy. Like, there is no excuse. If you're going to do something, bring it at 100%. Knock it out of the park. Like, even if it's folding a napkin, like, do the best that you can, right? And I get choked up because not everybody has that opportunity. Always think about that. Regardless of what you're doing in this world, there's so many things going on in the world. Put yourself in the situation of someone who wished they had that opportunity. And that'll motivate you and bring the energy to always bring it, right? And then later, you can take a nap. Later, you can take it off. Later, you can be lazy. Later, you can stay on the couch. But in that moment, bring it.
Yeah. I think it's such a great reminder. There's people who have this belief that they can kind of just maintain the status quo and where they are today and not try and always find ways to improve or to deliver, at a high level. But the reality is there's no such thing as staying where you are. If you maintain where you are, there's somebody else who's prepared, as you just mentioned, to work a little bit harder, to, try and raise the bar a bit higher. And so even though you feel like you might be staying, there's actually somebody else going up, which means that you're going down. And so this is why, the world of business is not one about being complacent. It's always about one of trying to find ways for improving things and getting better and hopefully, right, enjoying the ride and the journey along that path. So about 2 years ago or so, Tony, you came into the Clarity Coaching Program. And I know you're going to know what I'm going to be referring to here in just a moment, because we had a call, we were chatting, and I said to you something along the lines of like, Tony, this is coming from the highest level of respect, right, and caring. But I said to you, Tony, you don't have a business, you have a job. Do you remember that, first of all?
Yes, I do, very well.
What did it feel like? Because my intention was, again, I didn't want it to come across the wrong way, but that's what I saw. What was going on in your mind when I said that to you?
So a little bit of backstory, right? So I said earlier that I was from New York. I was born in Queens, raised in Brooklyn, and that's still in my blood, right? So I've learned over time, but generally my defense or my reaction is being defensive, right? So it was like literally like the second call of consulting success, right? I just got, I was meeting you basically, and I didn't know you like I know you now, right? We've shaken hands and hugs and we know each other, right? But back then I didn't know. So we start the call, and I forgot the specifics of the topic that led up to it. But basically your point was, are you a solo consultant, or are you someone who's building a consulting firm and a consulting business? And the point was, if it's just Tony, then you don't have a business, right? You're just solo consulting. And afterwards, you did provide some more context of, well, yes, solo consultant, you are having some type of business. But if your focus is to grow, right, and maintain, then that's where you were hitting home. So how did I react? I reacted initially defensive. And I said, who's this guy? He doesn't know me. What do you mean I don't have a business? I have a business, right? And I got to do taxes, and I got to do this, and I got to do that. I do have a business. And then I took a step back, and I've learned over the years, and I don't stop learning. That's another thing I think you mentioned earlier. Don't stop learning. That's another takeaway from whoever's hearing this. Don't stop learning. And on top of that, don't mix the two L's. Don't mix lucky with learning. So most people say, oh, Tony's lucky. He just gets some great clients. No, I'm not lucky. I keep on learning. So when I do have the opportunity, I can hit it out of the park. So it's not luck. I'm learning. I'm always growing. I'm always trying to do more. So when you said that, I took it defensively. I didn't take it well. Then after I kind of sat down and really thought through, and then I took more classes and sessions and things like that. I'm like, oh, I get what he's doing. And that's part of the program. So for those that are considering the program will challenge you on multiple levels. In this scenario, it challenged me to think outside of the box. It's not just about me. It's about where I want to take the business. So you're spot on. I didn't have a business if I just focus on me because I'm one person, I get sick. I want to take a day off, what have you. I want to spend time with my family. If I keep that going, I don't have a business. I just bill hours here and there. So that is what the takeaway, which I thank you. I didn't thank you at the time, but I thank you today because I think it definitely is motivation. And I still remember that story. Like I still remember that when I have tough days or if I wake up in the morning, I'm like, I don't know if I should be doing this. I think of those situations and I think, yeah, I need to do this, right? I need for X, Y, and Z reasons. So I thank you, Michael, for that.
Well, no. I mean, the one that's put in the work. I know you've doubled your business or more since that time. And I think just to put it in context, so you've done one important thing, which is it's not that being a solo consultant is bad. In fact, for some people, it's exactly what you should be doing. It came in the context of the conversation, right, that we were having, which is around like what you want to build and how you currently kind of had your model structured and seeing that there was a bit of a disconnect between where you were and where you want to be. And starting to learn more about you and just the massive potential that you have inside of you and your business, that was really what kind of came out. It's like, okay, Tony, based on where you want to go and the current model and the way that you're thinking about growth, it's not going to add up, right? And so that's why I was so glad that I have to say your face and reaction did not show up as being defensive at all. I was like, okay. But I did think afterwards, I was like, yeah, the way I delivered that was a little bit tough, but hopefully that tough love will come through. And yeah, I mean, it was amazing to meet you and your wife when we had an event right in person a little while ago and see the growth that you've created inside your business. I think people will probably be wondering, since that kind of happened, what did you change? What adjustments did you make inside of your business that have allowed you to actually really begin building a business, double the growth of the business? Just anything you can share that you feel like, yeah, I did these things and they had some really big impact.
Yeah. So earlier we talked about caring and energy and people hear that and like, yeah, that's too general. Like, sure, anybody can do that. It's the same response here. You just follow the program. So when I first joined Consulting Success, you go through the program and those initial exercises with the program and the initial focus was huge. So in this particular case, the structure was already there. It was just me understanding the structure and then applying it to my business. In my business, my structure is I can't do it all. So if I bring the energy, I need a really defined plan of how anyone in my team can bring the energy in that case, right? And that's what I started changing. So very shortly after that, and this was during the pandemic. So I had all the excuses in the world, all the excuses. But little by little, I just adapted what I was learning through the program. And eventually I got to one of my biggest engagements was I had a team of 7 people on an implementation. And that was just mind-blowing, maybe 4 or 5 months earlier than that, right? Because I still focused on it had to be me. Was the only one. And this is not something new, right? So it was just the way it was uncovered in Consulting Success that really helped me to drive it. So that huge implementation from that perspective spearheaded everything else I was thinking of. My hourly model compared to my fixed fee model, my team model compared to my just solo consulting model. Then the offerings I also changed. So before I was focused 100% on implementation. Now I do digital transformation, selection, implementation, support, post go live phases and projects. So now I have a whole gamut of services that before I thought it was just service one by Tony. And now it's exponential, right? So that's really the key there. And that's already part of the program. So anybody who's on the fence, should I do it? Jump right in. I recorded before, and I said before that it was tenfold and it was easy. My investment and what I got out of it, it's a no-brainer.
Well, I appreciate the kind words, Tony. That's not the intention of having you on here, but I appreciate it nonetheless. I'm wondering for those who might be in a similar situation, might be, solo or have 1 or 2 people that are working inside their company right now. They're doing a lot of the work. They're holding on to it. and maybe there's some hesitation in building up a bigger team, whether it's contractors, part-time, full-time people, whatever it might be. Is there anything that you learned during that process, like anything that kind of clicked for you and it was a realization, or just something that you would maybe counsel somebody else on if they were trying to navigate or make that leap, but they're just not right now being successful because they're just holding on to too much themselves and therefore holding back their growth?
At least for me, it was an aha moment in the sense of being more strategic and applying that with my time. So, most times it's like, well, here's an hour task. I can't give this to Michael. I have to keep on doing it because I'm the only one that does it. And that exercise, which is part of the consulting success, to determine what do you evaluate, what's your time worth, and then handing over that to someone, in this case, handing it over to Michael. Sure, it might take me more than an hour to get Michael up to speed, but once he's done, then I can use that hour to do something else. And that is huge. That growth is huge. To get more, you got to let go. So it might sound weird, but that's what will propel you. And to your point earlier, if you want to be a solo consultant and have, a certain scale and do that, fine. But if you want to grow a business and you want to scale the business, then you need to adapt and change. And this is one of the big components that I think you can get out of the program. Just make the change, because you could always go back. You can always, back to my analogy, how I was when I started, I can always go back to being solo consultant, one project at a time, and only 2 or 3 tasks in front of me. I can keep on doing that forever, but you can always grow and morph into something else. So that's the key takeaway I took from that.
You're a big family guy. You and I share that in terms of really prioritizing and always focusing on family, quality of life, right? Making those memories. I'm wondering for you, can you share how you think about that? There's a lot of talk about work-life balance and people have different perspectives on that. But it seems like there's not a week that goes by where, you're not, hey, I'm off to Disneyland, or I'm doing this, or I'm doing that. Like, you're always talking about your kids. They're always front and center, and your wife as well, and other family, extended family as well, and all that kind of stuff. How do you think about that? Like, is there a way that you plan out your week? Or I'm just wondering, are there any kind of rules or guidelines that you've set in terms of how you approach building a business and growing a successful business, but at the same time having, young kids and a family?
So definitely the reason why I started Angelus Advisors is family. I just wanted the flexibility to be around my growing family. So my youngest is 3. My oldest is going to turn 7 later this year. And those are key years. I know, back to what I said earlier, I owe everything to my parents. I tell them every day. And luckily they're still living. And everything I do is representation of what their sacrifices were. So when I put on a white shirt and a tie and I go in front of a client, I'm representing my family. So family's always been huge for me. And I want to make sure that I'm there for my kids. Like, I work a lot, but I don't want to always work, right? And I want to be always around them when I can. So it is a priority. So to answer your question very specifically, I often, even before I was with the family, I would map out my world, my life, what have you, in different categories of priorities, right? And family was always a priority. I even knew that even before I got married. When I get married, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I want to be hands-on. I'm going to change diapers. I'm going to clean. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to go to Disney. Now, is there days that I get up and I'm like, I don't want to do this? Sure. But the point that you made, it's creating those memories, right? And I know it's important for them. Maybe not now, but it will be soon.
Do you have any rules around, like, for example, you don't open your computer or check email or do work, between this time and this time, or weekends? Or how do you think about that? Some people, as an example, I know myself earlier on or years back, I'd be working on the weekends and I tell myself, a few hours here, a few hours there. I don't think there's no right or wrong. It just depends on kind of what season of life that you're in. But I'm wondering, for you, in your current season, do you have any rules or ways that you kind of structure things?
I don't know if I have any rules. I would say this: when you're making it a priority, you need some sort of game plan and a strategy on what works for you, right? So for me specifically, I know the core hours that I have to dedicate to the business because no one else is around. I know the core hours where bath time is important and dinner time is important and family time is important and playtime and Disney, etc. Also, in the past, maybe I had other priorities, right? I'm going to binge watch something over a weekend. Now that is out of the way and I can binge my family, right? Spend as much time as I can with them, right? A first movie, a first experience, a day at Disney is huge at this point for them. And that's what I do. Now, I also focus on the reward for the kids, meaning you do well here, here, and here, focus on school here and here, here. And then now we'll all make time and we do this, right? So it's part of raising my kids as well. And I'm showing them the value of work so they understand how much I work and what I do, et cetera. But then they also understand, oh, okay, we do this, this, and this, we get this. So I don't know if those are rules. I will say this, and I want to take a back step. So when people hear this, they're like, oh yeah, everything's rainbows and unicorns. It is tough. Every day is tough. Every day is a new commitment, but it's back to what I said earlier. If you want to be the best dad, be the best dad. So I want to be the best dad because my dad did that for me. I want to do that for my kids. And it's hard, but you do it, right? So that's why I want to be the best dad. I want to be there. I want to give them everything I can. I want to spend time with them. I want to do homework with them. I want to scold them. I want to run with them. Everything that's included in that package is a priority, just as much as it is with the business. And I do struggle just like anything else. Like there's days where, I should be doing this more on the business, or I should be doing this more on family. So you do have to adjust, right? It is like flying a plane. There's no straight line. You go up and down. There's turbulence. There's good days. There's bad days. And I'm a project manager, but kids have taught me that sometimes you can do the best plan and something happens and you have to adapt. So it is something that I've learned to adapt to, but I also am realistic, right? My oldest is 7. Very easily in the next 10 years, that's it. 17, 18, he's going to have priorities, right? So I want to squeeze as much time of those 10 as possible. And that's what motivates me to make the time now and do it now, because I know I'm not always going to have that opportunity.
Tony, before we wrap up, I want to, first of all, thank you for coming on the podcast. I know we've just kind of scratched the surface into your story, and there's so much amazing stuff that, you and your team are doing over at your company. For those that want to connect with you or learn more about the work that you all do, where's the best place for them to go and connect with you or learn more?
Sure. So I'm on LinkedIn. You can easily say, Tony, Mr. Energy, LinkedIn, and I pop up. Angelus Advisors, also we're on LinkedIn, but we have a website, so you can just Google it, Angelus Advisors. And right now we focus on really white glove dedicated service to our clients. So on purpose, we don't say yes to everybody and we don't take on everything that we can. We want to make sure that we deliver on each and every project. And back to what I said earlier, we want to make sure that we set a standard, that we're doing the best we can. And luckily it's worked so far. So each day we grow a little bit more. Each day there's more projects. And we want to make sure that, we continue that. So I'm looking forward to finishing off the year strong. I'm looking forward to 2024 and beyond. And then I really appreciate the time, Michael, not only through Consulting Success and now through this, but also just overall. I think I can say now that the friendship as well that's developed. I really appreciate that. And I hope you grow as well. And anybody who's on the fence or seeing that and deciding, by all means, you need to talk to me, reach out to me. I'll convince you that it's worth it.
I appreciate you, Tony. Thanks so much, man, for coming on. And we'll link all that up in the show notes.
Sounds good.
Talk soon.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
And there you have it for today's episode between Michael and Tony. If you enjoyed today's podcast, then as always, be sure you hit that subscribe button wherever you listen to your favorite shows. And to grab a copy of that free ebook, all you have to do is head over to Apple Podcasts, leave a rating or review, and send a screenshot image of that over at contest@consultingsuccess.com. Again, that is contest@consultingsuccess.com, and you'll be automatically entered to win the grand prize, which is the Momentum course. Thanks so much for listening to today's episode. We'll be back next week with another one. Until next time.